Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everybody's been doing well. I wanted to do another video today. A few interesting things have come to light, and one of the things that a couple things I'd say that this channel is all about. One is capturing and documenting the history of sorcery. There's a lot of super compelling and interesting history of just the early game development of the startup company and project that we've really come to love and enjoy, and also the art and the history of the art. So it's two elements: the history of the art, how that was developed, and the history of the game creation itself. So I got a few things here that came to light recently that I wanted to talk about. And I guess where I'll start, I'm on the Collector Art House website. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but I wanted to start with this uncut sheet that was revealed by the company yesterday. And I'm filming this on October 28th, 2022. So I think this was posted on the 27th of October. And if you look at what we're looking at here is the Avatar of Air pre-con deck, uncut sheet for that pre-con deck, right? So these are the cards that would go in that deck. And then what I want to draw attention to is the avatar itself, right? So you see a normal front-facing avatar. And what the company has said is that this is currently going to print production, so it is finalized. I think what we're seeing here is the final version that'll be printed and fulfilled with the Kickstarter fulfillment. So this is what we could expect to see, right? So on the front-facing side of the sheet, you kind of got a vision. It folds here, right? So this is the front of the cards, and these are the backs of the cards. You have all of your Atlas cards that match here, and then your spell cards that match the cards in the front here. So if you look at the avatar on the far left where my cursor is, and then look at the back of the card, you have the normal sorcery card back. That is the like a spell book card back. Although it looks like if I zoom in here, I don't know if the resolution is going to be good enough. Yeah, so you could tell here this is spellbook, this is avatar. You get the normal Francesca Berald artwork. She did this artwork on the back, which is pretty stunning. This border is super intricate. It's pretty amazing how she created that and painted this. And you have the differentiation between a spell card, spellbook from the spellbook, and the avatar itself, right? So why that is significant is because if you look at the sample card for this, and I have a couple pictures. Let me go to my folder and grab that. So I was able to get my hands on the sample card for this. And let me show the front first, right? So this is it's not the avatar of Ear, but it kind of proves a point here. So the front, you have the avatar, normal facing, just like we saw on the uncut sheet. But then on the back of the card, we had a full art. So that makes the sample card super unique. You know, that's the only. This is from the pre-con sample cards, and only those avatars, one from each of those decks for the 4 elemental avatars, will have this full art back. So when we go to the alpha print, we're not going to have this. In the pre-cons, you're going to have the normal face, like we saw in the prior image, like this. But the back is going to be the spell back, like we saw in the uncut sheet with the avatar text. You know, the Francesco Berald art that you see on the spell book, but with the avatar text. So that makes these sample cards super unique and super limited. So that's very cool and special. We go again to the full art. I mean, it looks stunning. The one thing we will see this on is the foil version. So the company recently said that there would be foil versions of the elemental avatars in the mainstream booster boxes and booster packs. So there will not be non-foil versions. Those will only be in the pre-con decks, and they will have the normal card back. But the foils and the alpha mainstream boxes and sample packs, or excuse me, the alpha packs will have the foil front facing and this full art like you see here. So that's pretty cool. This will be the only variant in existence, these sample cards that have the non-foil front and full art back. So that's one cool piece of history that they decided to make that change, and something that we learned recently. The next thing I wanted to go to is something that was being discussed in the Discord today. So there's a card called Witherwing Hero, and let me go to this one first. Excuse me. So this is the original painting by artist by the name of Vincent Pompetti. I've talked about him quite a bit on this channel, and also talked with him many times. Um, Great guy, great artist. Does these in watercolor, as you can kind of see. So I wanted to talk about something interesting about this card is that he did this in this artwork, and then Eric asked him to redo this in a substantially changed kind of way, which I'll get into in a moment. But something interesting that came out during the Kickstarter campaign was the reveal. So this was like what, week 2 of the Kickstarter campaign, I want to say, somewhere around there. Is about halfway through, maybe a third of the way through. It came the announcement that Eric and the team were able to license the artwork of Frank Frazetta. And that was a huge breakthrough. That was news broken by Rudy from Alpha Investments. Created a ton of buzz and excitement. There was a massive surge in activity, and there's a lot of people piled into Sorcery with the awareness that Alpha Investments created, and also, I think the fact that they're licensing with Frazetta is really incredible, very exciting for fantasy art enthusiasts. He's a legend and an icon in fantasy art. And I think that was actually Simon's idea. Simon's an employee of the company, so definitely kudos to him for having that idea. I think Eric had mentioned that in a video that he never would have dreamed that's possible, and he's actually surprised they were able to land that. And that's actually a pretty fundamental, informative breakthrough for Sorcery, I think, because it's been hinted that they could look at licensing in the future as well. So no better than the king of fantasy to start with, and could open doors for other potentially deceased and legendary artists in the future, or living artists licensing their existing work. So examples of that is Brian Smith's Color Out of Space was a work he had done previously that was leveraged for the game. There's an Ian Miller artwork Atlas card that was also done many years ago for a book cover that was licensed for the game. So there's a few examples of this. Those are living artists that are still doing work, obviously, but pretty cool that this Frazetta breakthrough happened. And I wanted to kind of show you guys where this art was inspired from. So there was some talk in the Discord of, hey, could this be Frazetta inspiration? And someone shared a couple images. So I went and researched that a bit and looked into it. And there was this book called Witherwing. And Frazetta had done the cover of the book. I think this was an earlier version or the original version. And then he had redone it in this version. And that, you could tell that's the classic Frank Frazetta style. And now think about also the Vincent Pompetti piece. So when I reached out to Vincent, I asked him about this. I said, one, was it inspired by this artwork? He said yes. And then I asked him about timing. And he told me that Eric had told him about the Frazetta licensing. So this was something that came after that agreement was in place, or perhaps while Eric was in discussions with the Frazetta estate. And that gives you a bit of insight into the timing of when this painting was conceived as a card for the game, an idea for the game. And Vincent was selected as the lucky artist to do that and pay homage to Mr. Frazetta. So you saw in the version, notice the white wing on the hero up here, and then the woman. In Vincent's take, so in the original version, let me go back to that. Here we go. Right, so he had the white wings here, and you see it takes the girl is significantly different, but you can see the inspiration of the winged hero. Now, knowing Eric's style, if you look at this, you could see that the wing is white, so that was kind of true to the Rosetta form. However, it kind of blends into the sky and the mountainside here. And knowing Eric, I could, I guess, what's the word? Knowing his style and just kind of seeing the different artworks, I am guessing he probably took issue with that, because not took issue, so to speak, but he has a very particular style. He wants the image to have a clear focal point, and a lot of these artwork compositions have a lot of detail and depth, but he wants it to be clearly recognizable and almost like iconic looking just looking at the card, right? So I would gather that maybe the white wing blending a little too much and feeling a little too samey, so to speak, was an issue, right? So he asked them to go and tweak this a little bit. And this is the result, right? So now you have similar style hero, kind of inverted, facing a different angle. We've seen that in a few places where artworks are inverted, so that's one element of this. But also the wings are a much deeper blue, so this is more striking. As you look at this, it clearly draws your eye to the hero first, and then the girl. That he's kind of the mechanic of this card is kind of interesting and kind of fits the motif that you're seeing here. But it has a focal point, a clear focus. It's a distinct image. It looks a little more iconic to me. The two images I'm showing are the originals that are now owned by a couple lucky collectors. That these are the framed copies that they have displayed in their home now. But this is the final version that we'll see for the game. Perhaps we'll see the others in alt art. Yet to be seen. But I thought that was really cool. To kind of point out the history of the art. And then what I wanted to finish with, going back to the title of this game. So there was a very fascinating revelation recently. A card that surfaced from, I want to say, 2020 timeframe. And now keep in mind the Discord was established in, I want to say, roughly summer of last year, 2021. So let's call it July-ish timeframe, maybe July, August. So this predated that. This was before the company kind of went more mainstream official and started leveraging social media with the Discord and really growing awareness for this game. There's a card, and so we're talking the early development era, 2020. Early stages, there was a lot of cards just being printed locally by Eric in New Zealand at a local print shop. And a set of those precons were sent to Red Zone Rogue, and he displayed those on his channel, and that also created some awareness for the game. But there's now some others that are just surfacing. And something fascinating that someone shared from our group and our community was a Midnight Rogue card. And let me show you the face of the card for starters. So here you have the Midnight Rogue by Elvira Shakarova. So this is early stages because you have art and then the copyright symbol Elvira Shakarova. And this is changed to an alpha symbol in the alpha release, so it's early stages because of that. And then also the simplicity and like the not fully developed game mechanic, flavor text, nothing like that, right? It's a pretty simple card. And then if you look closely, and shout out to Vincent in our Discord and community that noticed this, this was locally printed and cut because there's a cut error here. It's not like clean to the line and the perimeter of this card, and Vincent was able to recognize and make out just from that little sliver of color here that this is the Men of Lang card by Drew Tucker. And that would indicate that this was probably from a print and play print file, print sheet that was probably alphabetical, right? Because you have Men of Lang and then Midnight Rogue. So that's just an interesting little nuance that I wanted to point out. But the real fascinating thing here, and actually before I go that, let me go back to the Collector Art House website, www.collectorarthouse.com. And if you go to Sorcery cards here, I just want to show you how to navigate there for future reference. And you click on this nice picture of Elvira, boom, and you get all of her latest cards, right? So Midnight Rogue, notice the differences here. So let me go back. I'm going to show you this very early variant of the card. It only is so Midnight Rogue, 2 cost, 1 threshold, 2 power level. An exceptional mortal bides her time in the dark. It has stealth and deadly strike. Right now, let's go back to the website, and this is the very latest version as of the latest update on October 28th. Today's October 28th, 2022. So this is the latest we've seen. It now has range +1. Actually, let's start with the cost, right? So it went from 2 to 3, increased to 2 threshold, same power level. It's now range +1 in stealth, and then you have this additional Midnight Rogue doesn't lose stealth when she carries out ranged attacks. So it's matured a bit, right? And it has new mechanics. I think the type line text also had changed a bit. The cards, more refined. This is a more polished version and scan of what that card would be. So, the image we're seeing is from the local printer, so there's going to be some, not the highest quality of print there. So going back to the card, this is the face side of the card. Now, what's super interesting about this, when we look at the back of this card, here you go, Spellcraft, Spellbook. So that's the same, but Spellcraft. So when we looked at the card backs for the Uncut Sheets, and let me jump there again to remind you, this now has still Spellbook at the bottom, but you have the Sorcery logo at the top. This is the final design, right? So these are very early versions. Again, this card's from 2020 per the source that revealed it recently, and it's a print and play. So these aren't. Let me just be clear: these are not from the final print factory. They're not true sample cards. They're just cards printed by the company and freelancers, employees they were working with to develop the game and some of the flavored text and different things. But it's really interesting that it said spellcraft. It was kind of simplistic here, and this has changed over time. So just a little nugget and a kind of relic of the history of the game and development that I wanted to share here. If you guys see these in a wild, again, they don't, to our knowledge, there's no evidence that they exist as printed from an actual print shop, the print shop that they're going to use for the alpha release. So if you see a copy, these are just locally printed, local print shop printed. So, it's not that they probably don't have investable value for resale, but for us super hardcore super fans and enthusiasts of the history of the game, this is very interesting and fascinating to keep learning these little nuggets of the early days of Sorcery and how we went from several years ago when this project was created to where we are today. So that's all I had for you today. Thank you guys for following along. I hope you find this content interesting. If you're into the history of the game and the art of the game, please continue to follow the channel, like and sub. The best thing you could do to help me and help Sorcery as a whole is to share this video with a friend. Your network and your community, that's all I ask. Just share it. Spread the word of Sorcery. There's other great content creators working hard, mean mugging in games. Mike is another one, has been very active, doing a lot of gameplay and videos, so shout out to him. Support the community, help us grow together, and hopefully we can all enjoy this great game together. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate your interest and following along. Take care. Till next time.